Fourth Avenue to Techwood Drive, O'Leary to Key. It's WreckTalk.
What is going on, everyone, and welcome to WreckTalk. Today, we're going to be ranking the ACC head coaches. Now, some of these are going to be hard to do because they've never coached a single college football game in their life. This is, I pulled from Twitter. You can even see on the side there, our boy Bryce Kuhn did his own ranking. Can someone explain to me how Bill Belichick's the fifth best ACC head coach when he's never coached a single college football game? And I know what you're going to say, oh, so, all the Super Bowls, one of the winningest NFL head coaches of all time. Yeah, that's great. That's great. College football is a completely different landscape. I've made several videos about that. I think Brent Key's a little low on here. Mike Norvell's way too high. We're going to get into it. I haven't put a ton of thought into this admittedly, but let's just get into it. I recycled my old tier list and just replaced team with coach. The doo-doo tier of coaches is going to be 2 and 10. That might kind of give away the plot with where we're going to put our old boy Mike Norvell. Now, just looking at the rankings by record in the ACC, SMU undefeated in the ACC last year, Clemson 7-1, Miami 6-2, and then Syracuse, Duke, Louisville, and Georgia Tech all tied for 5 wins thereafter. So let's just go down the list. Tony Elliott, in fact, let me pull this over here. Started off decent this last year, but he's basically been on the hot seat for 2 years straight now. No one's really talking about Virginia. Sometimes Virginia gets brought up in conference realignment nonsense, like, oh my God, Virginia, they're this untapped market in Virginia. No one really gives a shit, if truth be told, and it would not surprise me if Tony Elliott was fired after this year. We've got 17 coaches. I'm going to agree with their list here. If I had to pick a worst coach, and just not flame the shit out of Florida State, I'd probably put Tony Elliott at the very end of this list. And there's not much to say about it. Disciple of Dabo Swinney, just a guy that has not really worked out. Another guy at Oklahoma, Brent Venables, a guy that's kind of not worked out yet, too, that had a ton of success with Dabo Swinney. Boston College, I would say he's an average to potentially above average head coach right now in the ACC. I think he did a pretty good job in his first year at Boston College. Another guy that's, had success in the NFL. Also, it's forgotten that he was the first coach after the whole, Sandusky thing at Penn State to take them over. I think after he was the coach of the Houstons or before. Excuse me. I'm trying to find Bill O'Brien. After they benched Casanellos, they ended up doing pretty well this year. Where did they end up? And I think they were 4-4 in the ACC. Yep, they were 4-4 with Virginia Tech. Not much to say about Bill O'Brien. I will say that's the one road game on our schedule that I think could sneak up on us. Like, a lot of people are going to be looking at Colorado on our schedule when we open up. I think Bill O'Brien's going to have a pretty good team this year, and I don't know what their over-under is, but I would probably take the over on their over-under win total. Now, Justin Wilcox. They went 2-6 in the ACC this year. They came close to beating Miami, but they let them come back. Like, I know there was a missed targeting call and all of that, right? But you let them come back from a 35-point deficit or whatever the heck it was. And I had people chirping in my comment section like, oh, you're overlooking Cal. Cal's this really good team. They had a good defense, but look, you go 2-6 in the ACC. I'm not all that impressed. I don't know much about Justin Wilcox. It's weird even ranking Cal as an ACC team, but maybe in year 2 I'll get used to that. But as of right now, I'm going to have him as a bad ACC coach. Now, I guess we'll do it this way. We'll just go down the line. I don't think it's any surprise to anyone. Any list that ranks ACC coaches right now that doesn't have Dabo Swinney at number one, you're out of your mind. It's not a list even worth looking at. Multiple national titles. I mean, how many ACC titles has he won up to this point? A bajillion. And won the conference last year. Was on a decline for a few years. Won the ACC title this year. And is completely kind of revamping his whole philosophy to college football as it pertains to the portal, as it pertains to NIL. I think Clemson is a team to look out for heading into 2025 and the future. But I think it's clear as day, multiple national titles, a plethora of ACC titles, and the current ACC championship coach, Dabo Swinney, is definitely number one. Manny Diaz, I would probably right now put him above average. And maybe we should drop him down to average. I don't know. I think Manny Diaz did a fantastic job in year one with Duke. Duke was a team that got decimated the year before, losing Mike Elko. Tyler Santucci, their DC, comes to be the DC for Georgia Tech for a year before going to be the linebackers coach for the Baltimore Ravens. But I don't think it can be understated the job that Manny Diaz did at Duke. When they hired Manny Diaz, before I ever saw him coach a game for Duke, I said, I think this is a very good hire for Duke. He's cut his teeth in being a head coach at Miami. Miami ran him out of town while he was on the recruiting trail for them. I think he went, to Penn State to be the DC, and then came to Duke. By the way, if you didn't know this, Manny Diaz has the same number of ACC titles as every other Miami head coach in history has. Fun fact. But I think you got to put him above average for what he did. Won 9 games, went 9-3 in his first year at Duke. I mean, that's not crapping on Duke, but that's an historic season from where Duke's been in the past. Probably going all the way back to Steve Spurrier. I mean, obviously, Elko had a very good season the year previously. But, look, I'm kind of a fan of Manny Diaz, especially because I think Miami absolutely screwed him. Let's skip over Florida State for now and Georgia Tech and go to Louisville. I think they're in the ACC championship contender. Jeff Brom proved me wrong. At his first year at Louisville, they end up breaking Tech's heart the year before last at the Benz, and made a run, right? Won a ton of games. I definitely would have had them in the over. Brom definitely knows offense. He definitely knows quarterbacks, and he's a great developer of quarterbacks. Now, Louisville probably disappointed. I mean, they're 9-4 this year. But I think for where they are coming from last year, they kind of feel like after making an ACC title appearance in Jeff Brom's first year, 5-3 in conference is probably a step back. However, they were 9-4 overall, ended on a 3-game winning streak. But I think Jeff Brom is an ACC, championship or contending tier coach. Dave Doran. Now, my friend Pigskin Pete despises Dave Doran. I think Dave Doran is the definition of mid coach, average coach. They're always a dark horse to win the ACC. They're a talented team. They recruit decently well. They have athletes on their team. Like I said, always a dark horse to win the ACC. They're always talked about in the preseason, and they always disappoint. I think if I thought about it hard enough, I could convince myself to put him in the bad coach tier. For what their expectations are year in and year out and what he delivers. And look, I get he'll win 8-9 games. Have they made an ACC title appearance ever? Has NC State ever made an ACC title appearance? They probably have. I can't remember the last time they won it. Hell, maybe with Phillip Rivers or something. But I'm going to put them behind Bill O'Brien. I think NC State is the absolute definition of mid. Hold on a second. I got to go get some water. Ooh. All right, that's what I needed. Apologize for that. We're just going to leave the headphones off. Pat Narduzzi. Pat Narduzzi, was he start off 6-0 and ends up, I mean, let's look at this losing streak. Loses his last 6 games. He started off 7-0 and lost his last 6 games straight. I talked about this on a live show a few nights ago. I get that his quarterback went down. So did Georgia Tech's. There's no excuse you can give me, aside from literally every starter you have being injured, to lose your last 6 games. And Pat Narduzzi's gotten into back and forth with his own players. He's had some media spats before. Like, I remember him calling his own players out on Twitter. He's called people out in the portal era. I'm not all that. Now, usually he bounces back. I'm not convinced as of right now Pat Narduzzi's a very good coach. I think he's better than Justin Wilcox right now, but maybe it's a hot take. I don't think Pat Narduzzi's a very good coach. I think losing 6 straight is a complete embarrassment. They've taken a major step back since making that ACC title appearance. And I forget the quarterbacks. I mean, went for the Steelers doing the fake slide and everything. They haven't done much since then, though, except for winning 7 games and then losing the next 6. All right. SMU. Obviously, Rhett Lashley is I don't know about national contender. I don't think he's a national contender yet, although they did make the playoffs, right? I definitely think he's an ACC championship contending coach. He's a guy that proved me wrong. I did not think much of anything of SMU coming into the ACC in year 1, and then absolutely embarrassing. Absolutely embarrassing every other team, including my Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets, and making a title appearance in year 1 and coming close to winning it. Rhett Lashley has something going on. I think you got to give him respect. And as of right now, I'm going to have him as the second best coach in the ACC. I think this should tell you everything you need to know. I don't even know who Stanford's coach is. And unless you're a Stanford fan, neither do you. I don't think you need to say anything else. Troy Taylor. What was Stanford this year? I think they won 2 games. There were 3-9, 2-6 in the ACC. However, one of them came against Syracuse and Fran Clown. So, honestly, Virginia wasn't even that bad this year. I mean, hell, what was Virginia? They were 3-5. So I'm going to have Troy Taylor as the worst coach in the ACC up to this point on our list. Now, we get to talk about Fran Clown. You can't understate what he did in year 1. No one has talked about Syracuse probably since Donovan McNabb was there with any seriousness. They were on a run where they gave Clemson a scare when they were kind of dominating the college football world. But I'll give him his props. Coming in year 1, bringing in the talent that he was able to bring in. Now, some of, if not a lot of that, had to do with, I guess, money they found somewhere to offer Honda McCord and these wide receivers. I'm sorry. I think I shortchanged them. They went 10-3 this year and knocked Miami out of the ACC title game and playoffs, which has to be commended. Now, they did it with the help of my Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets, but that's where my praise is going to end. Kyle McCord's gone. They're losing a lot off this team. Fran Brown says really dumb things. I think he focuses on dumb things. He talks about being from Jersey. He acts like he's from Jersey. He had some beef with Brent Key before we played. because he didn't say that they were best buds when they were on staff for 2 weeks or something before that. He doesn't like people playing tubas and shit while his kickers are kicking. This is a guy that said he doesn't bathe after losses because he doesn't deserve soap. The more I talk about him, the more he actually sounds like instead of being the coach of Syracuse, he should be committed to a mental institution. I don't think he's going to be able to repeat the success he had this year. I think Syracuse is going to take a pretty good step back. But as of now, for what they did last year, I'm going to have him as an above average coach. Right behind Manny Diaz, because I think Manny Diaz did it with less. And I hope that pisses off Syracuse fans. There's one in particular that just, his life has been completely wrecked by me, made 4 or 5 videos about me that I think all of 4 people have watched. So he can't comment. He's been banned from the channel for saying awful things. I don't even remember what it was. He must have said something. It's pretty hard to get banned, though. All right, let's talk about Brent Pry. Actually, let's go ahead and get Wake out of the way. By default, they're going to go here. Who did they even hire? Jake Dickert. He's the Washington State head coach. Honestly, I'm going to put him in average because Washington State, I think, won 8 games this year. Believe he coached Cam Ward before he went to Miami. Pretty awful situation with the destruction of the Pac-12 and Washington State and Oregon State not having landing spots. But I guess by default, I'll put him at the bottom of the average category. Brent Pry. This is another team similar to NC State that's the darling of the ACC every preseason, and I think disappoints every season. It's been a long time since the Big East and Michael Vick, and they haven't come close to sniffing that kind of success, in 25 years or so? 20, 25 years? So I'm not convinced that Brent Pry is a great coach. Now, they did beat Georgia Tech. I could make excuses for that. Not going to. I mean, what made people think that Virginia Tech was going to be the team this year? Because the team that won 6 or 7 games a year before was returning. I don't know. They're another team that, I mean, had Miami beat Miami and basically had it stolen. Who knows? I'm gonna put Brent Pry's average too. We'll put him right here, right behind. I think going right behind Dave Doran is fair. I think that's fair. Where do we rank? Why can't I remember Miami's coach's name right now? Mario Cristobal. I don't know what to think about Mario Cristobal. Obviously, he's stepped the recruiting up. And he's improved every year. But, and I'm not just saying this because I'm a Tech fan, he can't get over the hump of teams like Georgia Tech. In fact, he's beat Georgia Tech once in 3 years. Hasn't been able to get to the promised land, which for them right now is just making their second ever, I believe, ACC title appearance. Never won it. I'm told he's just this out of this world recruiter, but they have to pay quarterbacks $2 to $4 million a year. I don't really get that. Defensively, they're awful. Now, he did fire Guidry this year. I think Mario Cristobal, for me right now, and this is going to piss off a lot of Miami fans, is slightly above average. He's slightly above average. I would put Jeff Brom and Rhett Lashley ahead of him right now. That's just what I think. Type about it in the comments if you're a fan of one of those teams. Let's go ahead and do Georgia Tech. I rated Brent Key on a live show last night in 82. Was it 82 or 84? I think it was an 84. Brent Key struggles with game management at times. We tend to play up to talent. Whether it be Georgia, Miami, we're able to beat Miami. Scared the ever-loving shit out of Georgia this year. But then, we struggle with NC State that I don't think we should have struggled with. I don't feel like we played great even against, the VMIs of the world we played, so we tend to play down to talent. Brent Key, to take that next step up, I think has to work on the consistency. But I do think he's an above-average coach. I would put him above. I would put him above Bill O'Brien right now. I think I'd be okay with him being right there. My co-hosts were a little harder on Brent Key than I was, and some people in the chat were a little harder on Brent Key on the live show than I was. If you know a lot about Georgia Tech, though, I think you can't really understate the job that Key's done, taking over one of the worst situations in all of college football with Jeff Collins, who these absolute morons hired. Now, Jeff Collins was so bad that he basically in 1 year didn't even give Mac Brown an opportunity to retire. They ran Mac Brown out of town because that's how bad they were defensively. But I'd put Brent Key at the bottom of above average. Bill Belichick. As of right now, I have to assume he's going to be a bad college coach. Having him fifth is insane. It's insane. This guy's personality doesn't seem to be at all geared toward the college game. The only reason he's coaching college football is not because he wants to, but because no one in the NFL wants anything to do with him right now. It's out of necessity. And if he does have success, he's going to be gone to the first NFL team that's willing to give him a job so he can become the winningest NFL coach. I think this is an absolutely moronic hire for North Carolina. North Carolina cannot stop making moronic hires. WreckTalk keeps trying to tell them they're making moronic hires. They won't listen. But for a guy that's never coached a single college football game, that doesn't seem to be geared toward recruiting at all, Gronk, Julian Edelman, and Tom Brady were all asked on a panel how they think Bill Belichick will recruit. And they responded by laughing hysterically. So until he proves otherwise, I'm putting him in near the bottom of the ACC. And I think that's fair for a guy that's never coached college football. Now, spoiler alert, I'm not going to have Troy Taylor at the end of my list. Having Mike Norvell 6 is absolutely insane. I get they went 11-0, made fake national title rings like Central Florida did. Something about the state of Florida and fake, rings and fake national titles. They love. So I get the whole 11-0 thing, and I get the playoff snub, and I defended them. What happened at Florida State this year and going 2-10 is absolutely inexcusable. This man got paid 10 or 11 million? I think it was closer to $11 million this year to go out there, slap his own wiener around, and make a complete and total embarrassment further than they did the entire offseason this year. Again, it's inexcusable. And I think for that, this is not even really me trolling. Based on last year, Mike Norvell is the worst coach in the ACC. He hasn't developed a quarterback. Who's going to be their quarterback this year? Doesn't DJU still have another year of eligibility? He's supposed to be a quarterback guru. And credit to Uncle Lou, he's the first one that really brought this up. And I agree with it because it makes sense. But where's the quarterback that this guy's developed that's supposed to be a quarterback whisperer? Jordan Travis was a transfer. I believe he transferred from Louisville. I don't get it. And to be fair, I think I mentioned it with Mario Cristobal. They've got to buy quarterbacks every year. Florida State's in this portal to reload on key positions every year, more so than they probably need to. But God, if I paid a guy $10 million to slap my nuts for 12 games out of the year last year, I believe I'd want my money back. Florida State's an absolute embarrassment to college football, to humanity. Like if the aliens ever do invade, like let's say we go extinct and the aliens discover our civilization. If the first thing they look at is Florida State, they're going to be like, oh my God, they didn't evolve much past amoebas. I mean, this is the most underdeveloped civilization we've ever seen. But anyways, I think I'm going to stick with it. That's going to be my list. So at 17, I've got embarrassment, Florida State and Mike Norvell. At 16, I've got Troy Taylor. 15, I've got Tony Elliott. 16, I've got Bill Belichick because I think he's going to suck. 15, I've got Justin Wilcox. 14, Pat Narduzzi, tweeting Narduzzi. 14, Jake Dickert. I've already messed this up. 17, 16. Let's just run down top to bottom. I can't count backwards. I'm not that smart. Number 1, no surprise, Dabo Swinney. Number 2, I got Rhett Lashley. That's probably too high for him. You could make an argument for a lot of people to be at number 2 as far as coaches in the ACC this year. But I'm okay with having Rhett Lashley here. 3, I've got Jeff Brom. 4, I've got Mario Cristobal. 5, Manny Diaz. 6, as much as it pains me to do it, I've got Fran Brown, which is higher than anyone else that's doing these rankings has him. So I don't want to hear your shit, Syracuse. 7, Brent Key at Georgia Tech. 8, Bill O'Brien. 9, Dave Doran. 10, Brent Pry. 11, Jake Dickert. 12, Pat Narduzzi. 13, Justin Wilcox. 14, Bill Belichick and his 14 is a good spot for Bill Belichick because that's about how old his girlfriend is. 16, Tony Elliott. 17, Troy Taylor. And dead last, again, the clown Mike Norvell. So tell me what you guys think. Do you agree with that list? Did I have your team too high? Did I have them too low? Did I have another team too high or low? Let me know in the comments. And by the way, if you didn't know, we have merch. If you look right up under the video, we've got hats, we got sweatshirts, we got t-shirts. If you want to support the channel, that's a great way to do it. Also, you can give us super thanks, or you can come super chat in the live shows because WreckTalk needs a new chair because my fat ass broke this one. Y'all guys have a good one.